Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon. It's always a fun show. You can find us on the television, channel 182 on Charter, and you can also find us syndicated on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com, where thousands of people are coming into this podcast. As a matter of fact, Tawana, we're going to need to talk about that after the show as well. So you need your own podcast. You can also find us on all the social media sites. If it's social media, I do it. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, MeWe, all of those pages out there. X used to be called Twitter. And we're all excited about that as well. But thank you again so much for watching, and continue sending emails. I'm just telling you, you make my day when you send email. And anything you would love for me to discuss, I'll be glad to do that for you as well. You're sending emails about Tawana Lowery. She's Miss Overcomer. And it's always so good to be with you, Tawana.
It's great to be with you again, too. It's my favorite part of the week.
Well, I have so much fun when I get you on the show. And folks are looking for substance, and they're looking for help. They're, because we don't have a book in life. I didn't get one. Maybe you did. When I was born, nothing said, now this might happen, so this is the solution for that. There was nothing like that. And so you're offering the solutions for us folks here, and definitely we appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, my thought is, hey, if I've already knocked my head on the rock 5 times, why should you have to, right? So I just pay it forward.
Now, a lot of folks who are planning for the new year, and, we do this every year. And sometimes I say, forget it, I'm not going to do it this year. But I always wind up doing it anyway, because I have to have focus. I have to have a path to ride down, even though it could change from time to time. And you've been a huge help in that. So how do we get started?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And it is that time of year where, some people right now are overwhelmed with the holiday madness. I call it the jubilation, hysteria. But anyway, but at the same time, this is traditionally the time where people have already decided what they want to do differently next year, or they're beginning to think about it. And it could be, hey, I want to just improve in some areas like, financials or health or relationships or career, whatever. But then some people are saying, hey, I'm really going to make a shift. Like I'm going to quit my job temporarily, go back to school, or I'm going to start a new business or scale my business. Whatever it might be, we're making plans. Now, here's the thing. Donna and I want you to be crazy successful, right? Because it's just good for the society when we're successful. And it helps, rising tide raises all boats. So we want you to be crazy successful. But one of the things I've noticed in the 20 plus years of life coaching and empowerment coaching that I've been doing is there is one, now this sounds crazy, but there is one mistake, Donna, that people make over and over and over and over again that can actually sabotage all of their plans. Because look, I know that you're strategizing out there, you're planning, you're time blocking, you're planning your perfect repeatable week or whatever you might call it. But if you miss this one thing, it has the potential to send all of it off a cliff. And so you don't want to not plan for this. So Donna, should I tell them what it is?
I think you need to tell us.
So here it is. Drum roll, please. You need to make sure that you are planning for when plans fail. Now, I know that sounds so silly, but it's so true because look, no one achieves success in a straight line. We don't do it. And you don't even, right. And I never have either. You don't even get on a plane and arrive at your destination without constant course corrections, right?
Right.
And so to think that you're going to make your plan and then hit go and press the accelerator and make it to the finish line without any interruptions or speed bumps is just, ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why you really, in all of your planning, Donna, that's why it's so important that we plan that we plan what we're going to do when our plans don't work out. And that's not saying that, this is a doomsday message. We want your plans to work out, but you're going to have interruptions. You're going to have speed bumps. You're going to have things happen that you didn't plan for, right? And so it's important to know, look, how am I, you need to know now and start planning now for how you're going to address it when it happens, because I'm telling you, it will happen. Donna, you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I'd like to add something. I had the flu 2 weeks ago. I did not put that in my day timer. That was not something I was expecting. And but luckily I planned for it, because everybody knows we tape shows, and we used to do live, and that just didn't work out. If you get the flu, you got the flu. I mean, you can't do anything about it. And so I'm just really glad. Again, nobody's plans for the flu. It's not fun. But I did plan just in case something happens.
As a perfect example. And so what I want to share with everyone is the 3 things they can do so they can front load, in other words, right? Let's get in front of it. And when the plan doesn't go as planned, you've got a plan.
All right. This one
say that 3 times real fast, right? Okay. So here are the top 3 things, the 3 strategies to overcome the detours and setbacks. And the first one is we need to plan how we're going to show up for ourselves and others. The second one is we need to decide what message we're going to speak to ourselves. And the third is to determine what empowering questions we want to ask. Okay. And so, all right, you can go back to me for a second.
We'd rather see you.
Pardon?
We'd rather see you anyway.
And
so there's some wonderful plans, things I hadn't really thought about. Yeah,
but I'm telling you, over through all these experiences, I've learned if I can address those 3 things, I really have a greater propensity or a greater opportunity to bounce back. Right? We want to talk about the bounce back. Right. Okay. So let's talk about what it means to plan how we're going to show up for ourselves. And that really involves starting now so you can reap tomorrow. And the 2 things that are going to help you show up strong for yourself is how you show up now, start now. And it involves committing to having a power morning. That's the first thing, is having a power morning. And so you can switch back to me. And so what that would look like is establishing a ritual for what you're going to do in the morning. There's a lot of studies out there, Donna, as you all know. You're an early riser. I'm an early riser. That people who get up between 4 and 5 have a completely different life than everyone else. There's just overwhelming evidence that proves it. Now, what are they doing in that early hour? Well, they are setting the tone for their mindset, for their spirit, and getting their focus clear on who they are, what they're about, what they're committed to, what they believe, and all of that stuff. And they're loading their spirit and their mind with good thoughts and so forth. So what I do, I'll give myself as an example, and please chime in here. But when I get up, I click on this music that's not, it's not Guns N' Roses. I can tell you that right now. But it's kind of like meditation type of music. And so I'll grab my coffee. I happen to like to read the scriptures in the morning, so I'll be listening to meditation music, and I think through, who I truly am, what I'm truly about, focusing on my goals and seeing myself succeed. I read a couple of passages from the Bible, and then I'll read over my goals, and I just see myself and meditate on these kinds of things. So that's having a power morning. Now, for whoever's listening, you may have something different. You might want to go for a run or whatever it is, but you need to take that morning time to pay yourself forward. Okay. Now, here's what happens. As you're doing that, you're going ahead and you're putting deposits in your mindset bank account, so that when things go sideways, like maybe you zigged when you should have zagged, right? You're going to have something to pull out. You're not going to have a bankrupt mindset bank account, right? You'll have something to draw from. So if you don't already have a power morning routine, then think about what you could start doing like right now. Start thinking about, and maybe take these, holiday times to think about what your power morning ought to be. Because I'm telling you, if you will do this, you're going to front load yourself for success. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add to that, Donna?
Yeah, from my experience, the neat thing about being older than you, girlfriend, is that I've had quite a few experiences. So my first real management
we've both seen a few summers. We'll say
so I was about 25 years old, and I had this really good job. How I got it is beyond me. But anyway, I happened to have like the world's best boss there, and I was just like, oh, I got to go at it. I got to keep churning. I had a son, 5 years old at the time. And I was just keeping on at it like that. And so my boss called and she said, we need to meet. And so I'm freaking. I'm just 25 and I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? She's about to fire me, blah, 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 blah. And I couldn't think of anything because I was working around the clock. And she said, that's the point. You're working around the clock. She said, there are three things that are extremely important in your life. One of those, God's got to be number one. And she said, number two is family. And then she said, you got a son. She said, you got to spend time with him. And so, because the babysitter was spending more time than I was. And then she said, and then your job. And I'm looking at her like, you are my boss and you're telling me the job is the third in line. And she said, yeah, because if you got God handled and if you got your family handled, I'm a piece of cake. That was so right. Out.
Right. And so she understood the importance of you front loading, right? And paying yourself forward. And not only that, so you wouldn't burn out. Right. Mm-hmm. So the other way that we pay ourselves forward and we determine how we're going to show up is to create a daily anthem. Mm-hmm. An anthem is something that we sing, like if you go to the football game, we have the national anthem. This is like something you sing over or you repeat it like it by heart. And it represents what you believe, whether it's, a college team you love or a country that you're devoted to, right? So you need to have your own personal daily anthem. Now, I've been doing this for more than 15 years. I don't sing it, but I say it. And what I've done is I've taken a lot of both scriptures and quotes and things like that and pictures, and I put them on like a poster board, and I have it on my cupboard. So after I get through determining how I'm going to show up that day and getting my mindset, then I actually stand in front of my daily anthem and I read it out loud. Even though, Donna, you could wake me up at 3 a.m. and I could say it like this. I've said it hundreds and hundreds of times, right? Mm-hmm. But I do it anyway because there's power in me reciting what I believe about God, the universe, myself, my future, my present state. And so to hear myself say it, it's repeating. It's like playing something over and over and over. It is branded in my mind at this point, right? I can't not believe it. And even when I'm traveling, like I have a picture of it on my phone, I'll open it up on my phone and I'll read it from my phone. I don't just rehearse it, I read it and say it. So for instance, my daily anthem, and I happen to be someone that believes in the scriptures, and they have saved my life saved my book on more than one occasion, right? So, so I say things like, I am above and not below. I am the head and not the tail. And then I say, God, I thank you that your goodness and your mercy is chasing me down. Like, you get a picture of that. Like, it doesn't matter what this is the truth, right? This is the truth, because there have been those times, and you've probably experienced it, and many of the folks who are listening have experienced it. When you've had such a horrible day, you're going to bed that night going, can I even get up the next morning? Like, can I even visualize myself wanting to get out of bed, right? Mm-hmm. And then I say to myself, yeah, I'm going to do it, because I have to get my mindset, and I'm going to stand in front of my daily anthem and I'm going to quote it to myself. And honestly, there are times when if I didn't have that to look forward to the next morning, I would pull the covers over my head. And so I go through these quotes and everything about what I believe. And, then I thank God for his favor. And I mean, by the time I go through these little things, it takes me maybe 60 seconds at the most, maybe, a minute and a half. I am ready for the day. Mm-hmm. Now, here's why this is important. When you hit a brick wall next year, and you will, it doesn't have to be fatal. Mm-hmm. And the way you can bounce back is to have this daily anthem that you have already saturated your mind with, and it'll be what you fall back on. Mm-hmm. Makes sense?
It really does. And I've also heard, because I was in the corporate world a really long time, and one of the things they would talk about was having a habit. And they would talk about, your customers have to hear a message 7 times, at least 7 times before they actually get it. And I'm one of those. It probably takes 10 times for me. But anyway, you're kind of creating a habit, aren't you? Which is a healthy habit that you can have, because you're reminding yourself of the good things. And core values are so important.
True. And you're training your mind how to think. You're actually training, and you can train your mind how to think. Now, maybe somebody else trained it, but you can untrain that and retrain it. One thing about impressions, like 7 impressions before you believe something, I read a stat that said, for women, it's 7. For men, it's 12. So all you guys out there, you need to do this 12 times before you start 2025. So, all right. So let's move to the second strategy. Okay. And that is, we have to determine, Donna, what message we're going to speak about the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like when the thing, whatever it is, whatever the speed bump or roadblock or disruption is, we need to think about what we're going to say about it. And that's where what I call creating your at-bat affirmations becomes so important. Now, we can do this with a vision board. We can post affirmation statements like on the refrigerator, on the computer, on the bathroom mirror, wherever they need to go, right? If you need one in every room, put one in every room, like whatever it takes, because your goals are meaningful and your vision and mission is worth fighting for, right? So set yourself up for success. So have your at-bat affirmations, put them on a vision board if you want to. You don't have to. Post affirmation phrases in prominent places around the house. Now, here are some, let me go back to here. Here's some examples of some at-bat phrases, for instance. Some that I love to say, and I like to say, divine solutions already exist. I mean, that's powerful when you think about it. To tell yourself, look, there is a divine solution to this that's already out there. I just haven't found it yet. And that changes your mind about how you're going to think of it. In other words, you don't have a fatalistic mindset about it. You are telling yourself there's a solution out here. I just haven't found it yet. So another at-bat phrase you could say to yourself is, I'm anointed for this day and everything that comes my way. And I love that, because you don't know when you're going to get that email that makes you want to fall under your desk and suck your thumb, right? But if you have already said to yourself, and you may want to post this one on your computer screen as well, but when you say to yourself, I'm anointed for this, whatever this is, I'm anointed for this, I'm anointed for this day, and everything that comes my way. Donna, you can switch back to me now if you want to. That is so powerful, and it's going to set your mind to overcome, right? Because this is about overcoming whatever's trying to overcome you to separate you from your goals and dreams. And then the third one is on that affirmation statements, like, what are you going to say to yourself? My favorite, I'm about scriptures. And so I cannot tell you how many times this particular scripture has saved my bacon. And it's Psalm 37:23. And this is what it says: the steps of the righteous are ordered of the Lord, and he delights in every detail of their life. Though they stumble, and here's the kicker, though they stumble, they will not fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. And it's so important. Like when you're stumbling and you've got this stuff happening that you didn't plan for, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be a catastrophe. If you can remind yourself, no. I know I'm stumbling. I know I'm tripping. I know I feel like I look like a drunk person walking right now as far as trying to go forward, but I'm not going to fall. I am not going to fall. Divine solutions are out there and they exist. I'm anointed for this. You got to get clear on what you're going to say to yourself. And so if you'll start practicing now, then you'll have it memorized, and it will be like your automatic response for when things start to go a little sideways.
Absolutely. I mean, knowing that it can and it will. I mean, that just happens. Okay, so my mother always talked about being in labor with me over 9 hours. So I'm pregnant and about to go into labor, and I'm thinking, 9 hours, it won't be any longer than 9 hours. It was 26 hours actually. So, it's not necessarily something you're prideful of carrying that torch for. But the point is sometimes, things are just going to happen you don't plan for. It's just going to be there. But the older I get, the more I'm taking those as learning experiences. Because when I go through something that's just weirding me out, when I do that, I'm able to help other folks. Right. And that's what it's all about, right? We're here to help each other.
We encourage others with the encouragement we have received. Mm-hmm. Like the only reason I can say all this is because I learned how to do it, and I did it because I had a lot of times when my plans looked like they were going off the cliff, right? And sometimes they did, and sometimes they just took a huge detour. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you what my life was like before I did these things and what my life has been like since I did these things. And I've seen other people who implement this, how it's a difference between going through a hurricane as a palm tree and an oak tree. A palm tree will bend, but it bounces back. A lot of times an oak tree will just fall over. We don't want to be these immovable oak trees that have, no sway to them. The winds are going to come. The rains are going to fall, right? It's just life. So we want to go ahead and plant ourselves like a palm tree so we can, if we sway, we bounce back, and we sway, we bounce back.
Something I think because people are looking for truth, and because let's just face it, a lot of stuff on television is fake.
Everything is almost as fake.
That's the way it is. But when people can see that you are a real human being, because really, you're not going to help me if you've never been through anything. If everything has been handed to you on a silver platter, you're not going to be able to tell me how to live my life. You're not going to be able to give me instruction. And I want instruction. That's what Proverbs is all about. I want instruction. And it's from the people, you hear about the people in the Bible, you don't think about the things they went through. You think, well, David, he slung he's just a slingshot. It's David versus Goliath. Well, you don't know what David had to go through to get to that point. Don't you think he was afraid? For goodness sakes.
Absolutely right. He killed a lot of bear and a lot of lion and a lot of other things, right? Before he ever got to Goliath, he was prepared for Goliath. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're talking about. You talk about the Bible. I recently did a study on the book of Genesis, and I had to just finally just put the book down, and I just started laughing. I'm like, poor Abraham. How many times did he call his wife his sister to save his own neck, right? And Sarah was probably like, I'm really getting tired of being rolled under the bus here. Can you find somebody else to victimize?
Excuse me. I'm your sister.
Yeah. And yet they kept moving forward. See, and they learned, I'll say this real quick, and it helped me. I heard this pastor up in Washington, D.C. make this statement. It was so, comforting, right? He said, God has made accommodation for your learning curve. And we need to understand that. And we talk about giving each other grace. We need to give ourselves some grace. And so that leads to the third powerful strategy, Donna, that we want to make sure we're implementing. And it's, what questions will you ask yourself when you hit a speed bump? Okay, so here are some examples of questions that I find to be extremely powerful that we can ask ourselves. And the first one is, what does it look like if it's easy, right? So, you can come back to me now if you want to. That is so important because we automatically think that it's hard, it's not solvable, and we compound how big it is. And then we start to stress, and of course your brain locks up. You go into fight or flight, and your monkey brain takes over, and your lizard brain takes over. Now you can't do anything. Rather than you just stop, take a moment, and you might just want to find a nice place to just sit and be quiet, meditate, whatever, and then close your eyes and just say, what does this look like if it's easy? Do I really need to take 10 steps, or could I do it in 4? Does it take 5 weeks, or can I do it in 3? You see what I'm saying? But maybe the reason you've hit a roadblock is so that you can find a new way, find an easier way. You got to realize that God is for you, not against you. And you might be overcomplicating something that's going to cost you more time and more money. And so this roadblock might be a divine interrupt, right? To get you to think differently and to get you to ask a better question. Not, why is this happening to me? Or, why did they do that? Or why this? No, ask this question. What does it look like if it's easy? And then just sit back and think. Just let your brain relax and visualize a different path. And I'm telling you, every single time I've done this, I have found an easier way.
And I'll tell you something that's really interesting too. And I've done this in the past. I've blamed God for it. And God was sitting there like, you dummy, I've sent you an airplane. I've sent you all these different things that are out there. And I'm like, you're right. It's not your fault. It's mine for not taking the lead. Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Going to a commercial break, and we'll be right. Can you believe half the show has just flown by? We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Everybody hang in there. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to limonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Limons you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Limons Mexican Restaurant.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer
yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. We're back from the commercial break. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors for making all this happen. I tell everybody we've got the best. Absolutely. We also have the best guest, and that's Tawana, who's with me right now. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show. Catch us every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. But now, if you would like to look at all the social media sites, anytime that's convenient for you, you don't have to wait till 1 p.m. Central. Find us on YouTube as well. Tawana, so I know folks need to get in contact with you. It's important.
Yes. Yeah. So, right now, for those of you, especially you women out there who are life coaches, you're in leadership positions or you're career women, I'm offering free 2025 strategy calls and no strings attached. Seriously, I want to help you get yourself set up for success next year. So you can simply go to missovercomer.com/coaching and book a call with me, and we'll talk about what your goals are. Also, if you're looking for a woman speaker to talk about these types of things or anything that's faith-based or empowerment-based for women, you need a keynote speaker, you're putting together a workshop, or you're looking for a podcast guest, please reach out to me at my email, tawana@tawanalowry.org. And please join our social media. It's at Miss Overcomer Global for everything, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Absolutely. I just love technology, don't you?
Absolutely do. Yep. I don't know how we lived without it, and I was born in the right generation. I can guarantee you that right now.
Oh, absolutely. Okay.
Technology and indoor plumbing.
There you go. Absolutely. Thank you so much for putting us on the right track. Of course, we need assistance. I know I do. And you're never too old to change some of those old ways either. Because right. Things change. Technology changes. We're not using 8-track tapes anymore. That's a good thing. I'm really proud.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So when we think more about the questions we want to make sure we're asking ourselves, as we're going to wrap up step 3, there's a couple of more questions we want to make sure we ask ourselves. So we talked about asking the question, what does it look like if it's easy? But we also want to say to ourselves, okay, what lesson can I learn from this? That's another great question, because you are learning something, right? Don't discount that you're learning as you're moving forward. Another question you want to ask yourself is, how can this make me stronger or smarter or wiser? Because if you are learning something, you are becoming stronger, smarter, and wiser. So don't discount the lesson, in the speed bump or in the roadblock. There are lessons that are so valuable. And then the fourth question is one of my favorites, and it has to do with kind of my conversation that I like to have with God, and it's comprised of maybe 3 questions within a question, and you can come back to me, Donna, if you want to. So I like to say, God, what do you want me to know about you with regards to this, whatever it might be, right? It could be this day, this meeting, this situation. God, what do you want me to know about you? Right. And it's always a great thing. He usually says, I love you. And when I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, everything's going to be okay. I also ask him, God, what do you want me to know about myself in this situation? And that's a huge question, because, we live with ourselves, and sometimes we're not as self-aware as we think we are. And if we've have patterns and lifestyles and habits, we don't even know we're doing it. It's like the fish and the goldfish in the fish bowl. They don't know they're in water. They've always been in water. And so if we can ask God, what do you want me to know? And he always says something loving and kind. It's not condemning, or judgmental. It's always something, typically he'll say, you need to think about this differently, or he'll say something to me like, remember who you are, or whatever. But it's always very encouraging. It's all about empowering thoughts and words from God. And then I say, God, what do you want me to know about, and you can fill in the blank, about this meeting, about this get together, about this new position? What do you want me to know about my relationship with whoever, XYZ, my spouse, my children, my boss, whatever? What do you want me to know about this interruption? But asking, look, when you ask God a question, he's going to give you an answer. I mean, he's not going to sit up there with his arms crossed, tapping his foot like, why haven't you asked me before? No, he's so excited, so happy that you're talking to him. He's going to talk back. And so just make sure, as we recap, these are the 3 strategies you want to make sure that you're focused on so that you can plan to overcome the setbacks. Number 1, determine how you're going to show up for yourself and for others, right? That gets into planning your power morning and getting your daily anthem together. Then you want to think about what messages are you going to speak to yourself. That's those affirming affirmation thoughts and words and things that you put all over your house or your vision board. And then you want to determine what questions you're going to ask yourself. The questions that will empower you, not questions that will make you want to go and hide somewhere, like why type of questions, but more like what and how questions, so that you can open up your mind to receive, multidimensional or higher types of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Something I found interesting, and you're making me think about this, which is a good thing, is we're very particular about what we put in our bodies and what we eat. We're in a healthy society right now. Eat the right things. I love boiled eggs because it's just pure protein. I mean, and when you and I have busy lifestyles. So when you have a busy lifestyle, you need all the protein that you can get. But we don't think about the mind and about the brain. And the brain is actually the vehicle that makes everything else work.
Right. It's the muscle we use the most.
Mm-hmm.
We use that muscle
sometimes at least, but I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. But it's not true. It's not true. And so you know what, you're right. It's like muscle fuel for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you can think of it. But also again, just realize that there's nothing wrong with making plans. And this isn't to get you to not make plans. No, make plans, make big plans, make big, audacious plans, right? But also make a plan for how you're going to show up, what you're going to say, what questions you're going to ask, so that you will have your toolkit already in place, your plan B or whatever you want to call it, to help you navigate the roadblocks, the detours, and all the course corrections that will absolutely come your way.
One thing I thought about, because I used to be in the job placement business. I used to be a headhunter. Oh, it was a fun job. I really loved it. And this is one of the things I did back in my younger days, my first business, actually. And so I would help people find jobs. And I always kind of like being the middle person where I'm the cheerleader for somebody and I'm getting it ready for the next step. Mm-hmm. And so one thing I found really interesting, this is before the internet. Okay, we didn't have all the lucky, wonderful stuff we have now on the internet. And I would always do a little research about a company before I sent the person. A couple of reasons. For one thing, for myself, so I would know I was sending the right person, even to the way people dress in the office. I mean, all those things were extremely important. Again, we didn't have the internet back in those days. But also, I didn't want the folks I was sending over for job interviews to fall flat on their face and not know anything about the office, about what they do.
Right.
I mean, you can fail big time that way. So, but now with all the tools we have, I mean, if you're going for that killer interview, those are some important things to know.
I can't agree with you more. As a matter of fact, when I've been on interviews in the past, I would, and you can Google what are the top 5 questions they ask, and they're typically always the same. But you also need to be prepared for 2 or 3 that are going to be like out of left field. But the more you know your resume, the more you've read it and rehearsed it and read it and rehearsed it, because that's what they're going to be talking to. Uh-huh. You can talk about yourself, from a place of power and strength and confidence. And if you will rehearse these questions that they're going to ask, rehearse them with somebody. To your point, just go ahead and plan. Like plan for what will most likely happen. And do it with a friend, do it with a spouse or whatever. But that's what I'm talking about. Plan for the next year, for when things don't go as planned. And then you can say, wait a second, I've already planned for this. You can actually say, I've planned for this. Here's how I'm going to show up. Here's what I'm going to say. Here's the questions I'm going to ask. And all of that's going to work together to keep me moving forward.
I wanted to ask you a question. This also, for some reason, I'm thinking about headhunting all of a sudden, but I'm remembering questions that were asked of me. So I had this lady had like the perfect background. It's very skilled in everything she did. She could put events together. It was an events planner's position, and she said the only thing is how important is it that they know that I was incarcerated once?
Kind of.
And I said, it's extremely important. And she said, well, I didn't turn you off. And I said, you're not going to turn me off because I know what your skill set is. I said, you've got to be transparent. I mean, you cannot, because they're going to find out. Right. I mean, they will find out. It's better that you tell them and go ahead and get everything out in the open rather than they find out their imagination goes wild that she killed 10 people. I mean, they need to know. And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't that big of a deal that she was incarcerated. But anyway, it was something not that big of a deal. Like she didn't pay taxes or something. I forgot what it was. And
so what she could do, and anyone could do, if you feel like you've got like a little mark, in your past or in a previous job, or, why did you get fired or whatever, go ahead and plan now. If you got to hire a coach or somebody, but plan now, or get on ChatGPT. My goodness. I mean, that's like the best assistant in the world, and it doesn't cost a penny. And formulate how you're going to address it by talking about, here's what I learned. Here's how it helped me grow. Here's what, I'm able to make a stronger contribution going forward. Everybody loves someone who has a bounce back story. And I remember hearing Donald Trump, when he was doing The Apprentice, talk about this. Everybody loves somebody who has a comeback, right? And we've all got a comeback story. So go ahead and plan for your comeback, is what we're all saying, Don and I both. Go ahead and plan for your comeback next year, because something is going to try to punch you and knock you out, and you got to get back up. And these 3 strategies are going to help you get back up with more confidence than you had before you got knocked down.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody loves the comeback kid. I mean, everybody does. And to not be ashamed of it. I mean, you're not going to put it out on social media and not go overboard. But what I'm saying is if it presents itself and you feel like the timing is right. But this is my question for you, Tawana. How do you know when the timing is right? I mean, there are some things you don't want to bumble out there and say that could be a total turnoff.
Well, you pray for wisdom. I mean, this is part of preparing for every day, right? I always say, God, give me wisdom, like wisdom that I don't have in and of my own natural self. I need all the wisdom I can get. And so when I ask for it, you know what? I receive it. And I think sometimes too, we think other people think about us the way we think about us.
Oh,
like they see our flaws. They see all of our flaws. They see all of our insecurity. They don't. So, when in doubt, say nothing. And I remember I was told as I was, growing up, no one can repeat it if you don't say it. So there may be a situation where it's not even necessary to say something. But if it's like put in your lap, in other words, you don't want to go drag it and throw it in your lap. But if it's put in your lap, just be prepared with what you're going to say. And here's the other thing. The more prepared you are, the more confidence you have. Mm-hmm. And that way somebody can say the most out of left field thing. And sometimes they'll do it just to see how you're going to respond. And if they give you this, left field question or topic, and you already have this beautiful, eloquent, well thought out, well rehearsed answer, and it doesn't even change the expression on your face, that says something right there. That tells them that you're poised and you're calm under pressure, and that you can handle, unexpected situations. That's why preparing is so important.
It's extremely important, and especially if you're going for a high profile job. Because, those are the ones. They're looking for the people who can jump a hurdle and still turn around and smile and make it work. And a lot of times, and I've had this happen to me, I had a hurdle. I could have taken advantage of that hurdle. And instead of like going somewhere screaming about, God, why did you do this to me? Instead of doing that, if I could just faced it, it would have been a much better reaction and a much better turnout.
And, here's another question. I mentioned of the questions you can ask yourself. And here's another question we'll add to that list. You could say this: how is this working in my favor? Now that'll make you stop and think. Mm-hmm. You just stop and say, okay, how is this actually working in my favor? Right? Because it is. You just haven't thought about it. And when you don't think about it, you don't ask the question, you don't see it. But once you put it out there, when you ask the question, your brain will start searching for an answer. But if you never ask it, your brain will go, okay, I guess I'm just going to sit here and wait till I'm asked something. You ask that question, your brain will start looking for an answer, and you will find one. You may have to, phone a friend or whatever, but how is this working in my favor? That's a great question to ask.
Oh yeah, that's tops. That's tops. And you're on top of the game there. And again, people in today's world are looking for people who have quick answers, the right answer, but quick answers. And they can think. They just do like that. And sometimes I feel like with education, I feel like, college, high school, whatever, some elementary, is people aren't taught to think quick and witty right on the top of their.
Well, that's because the instructors aren't rewarded to do that. Like, they're incentivized to do something different, right? And so that's why it's so important to be a member of clubs or small groups or church groups, or read a lot of books, watch YouTube videos that talk about how to master your mindset and how to think about things. There's so much great information out there. There's really absolutely no excuse for us to not be prepared for almost any situation that comes our way.
I totally agree with that. We were talking just a few minutes ago about what you put inside your body. I know I'm able to think more clear at an older age than say 20 or 30 years ago, because I'm not drinking sugared colas. Mm-hmm. I'm drinking a lot of water, and there's just something about water. And what it does, it helps cleanse. You can think quicker. Now, some people need a sugar high. I have friends who do. I like a Snickers bar every now and then. I'm not saying I never do. I'm just saying making a habit out of it can also be a danger in your thought process.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could also be part of how am I going to show up, right? How am I going to show up today? I'm going to show up by making sure I have enough rest, making sure that I get exercise, making sure that I eat a proper diet, making sure that I don't overconsume social media, that I'm not out there comparing myself to other people who only post pictures where everything looks perfect. So, you need, when you're talking about how am I going to show up, it's 360. And, I know how I feel if I don't go to the gym. I know how I feel if I don't eat properly, which that doesn't happen very often, but it does something to me emotionally, but guess what? I have to bounce back. Okay, tomorrow, that's fine. I missed today. It's not fatal. It's not the end of the world. I'll do double tomorrow. So I'm already setting my mind, like, okay, I didn't work out 6 days a week this week. Like I said, I was going to. Here's why. Here's how I can tweak it. Here's how I can make a plan. Maybe I can do a better job of putting things on my calendar and making them, non-negotiable. There's all kinds of ways you can plan ahead for success.
Absolutely. In so many ways. So what if I've just made bad decisions my entire life? Is there a way I can turn that around?
Well, okay. So this is a great question. Absolutely great question. And, I got to tell you that Psalm that I quoted, Psalm 37:23, saved my life, literally. I had a situation several years ago when I thought I was convinced in my little brain, right, seeing the world like this, I was convinced that I had made too many mistakes. I'd had too many setbacks. I'd missed the last train out of the last station, and basically my life was over. And because of believing this stuff, I had panic attacks a lot for about a year. This was several years ago. But the panic attacks were because I literally had convinced myself I had no future, which was completely crazy, irrational, and just not true. And so guess what I did? I started reading that Psalm. I probably read that thing 10 times a day because I realized that was the truth and what I was believing wasn't. And so I reprogrammed my mind how to think about my past, my present, and my future. And pretty soon the panic attacks went away. I mean, if I, for some reason, when you're going through something like that, you can wake up at 2 a.m. and your brain just goes nuts on you and you can't go back to sleep. Well, I would grab that scripture, I would read it over and over and over and over again, and then I'd go back to sleep or during the middle of the day, whatever. Eventually, I reprogrammed my brain to believe something better. And so you gotta realize that no matter what you've gone through, again, ask the question, what did I learn from this? You learned something. You learned who not to be around, what not to do, what situations don't work out for you. You still gained something from it. And maybe you've never thought about it. You've never given yourself permission to do it. But I would say go back and ask these questions to yourself. What did I learn from this? What would it look like if it had been easy? And if it ever happens again, how will I approach it next time? What can I offer others? And this is a big one. What can I offer others that wasn't offered to me? How can I be the answer I was looking for in my time of need? How can I be that to other people? Yeah, right. Absolutely. Because when we're going through stuff, we're always looking for something that we feel like we need and we haven't found it. And maybe the reason you didn't find it is because God wants you to be it, right? Or be it for your generation. That's what he said to me. And that's what I realized, all these things I was looking for in my time of need when I was trying to climb out of a really deep hole. I was looking for certain things I needed. I couldn't find it. And I just made a promise to myself. I said, okay, one day when I get to the other side of this mess, I'm going to become the thing I couldn't find in my time of need. And that is exactly, by God's grace, what has happened. And I would just say to whoever's listening, what can you become? that you couldn't find in your time of need. There's something redemptive in what happened to you. And you may have to dig deep to find it, but I promise you, if you're still here and you're listening to this and you're still breathing, you have a future. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here.
Absolutely. And in essence, you're planning. And that's what the whole topic of the show is about.
Right.
Is planning.
Right. Plan how you're going to show up in the future. Okay. You can't change what happened. Get out of it. Forget it. Okay. Give it to God. Let it, be under grace, whatever. I have a whole workshop that I do about overcoming regret. It's so powerful. But okay, it's behind you. Do this. All right. What can I learn from it? How do I want to show up in the future? How can I pay it forward? You have something to offer. You still have something to offer. Write a book, start a blog, do speaking, or figure out maybe it got you to the point that you finally gave yourself the permission to choose what you really love. Thank God for that. Then go forward in it. There's something, no matter what it is, there's something redemptive that you can pull out of it.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we're all here to help each other out anyway. Less than 3 minutes left in this segment. So let's talk about other things that we can do for ourselves. And I know you have just chapters of things. People can get plugged in with you. I know you have several things happening right now. How can folks get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can go to missovercomer.com and you can book time with me, missovercomer.com/coaching. You can join Facebook, our Facebook group, missovercomer.com, also on Instagram. And if there's something you in particularly may want to invite me into that you're doing, speaking or whatever, you can drop me an email, tawana@tawanalowery.org, and we can talk about what that might be. But just realize that you're still here, you still have a future, you haven't made too many mistakes, and this is the other thing that's so good. God has made accommodation for your learning curve, right? So give yourself some grace, breathe, hit the reset button, and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. What do you say to someone, one last question, who is in an abusive situation right now? I know people will feed you full of, you're this, you're not that, those kinds of things. But you can kind of listen but not listen. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There's a lot of situations when people are in abusive. Now, if you're in a physical abusive situation where your life is in danger, you really need to get out of it. Contact authorities or a friend, or just get to a place where it's safe. If it's around other situations where you're most likely, it could be that you're just being disrespected, you're being marginalized, objectified, or just constantly being criticized. To whatever degree you can minimize those engagements, I would say absolutely do it. And, you may just pray and ask God, where can I dial back? Look, over the years, and you've probably been the same way, Donna, I've gotten really good at letting go.
Just let it go.
Let it go. And it might mean some relationships that you never imagined you could live without. Now, look, if you're married, go get some counseling, right? I'm not saying divorce anybody, but if it's things that you just need to stop, it's counterproductive and it's not blessing you, pray about it. And find out, where can I dial back or go in a different direction or get to a place where I can be fed and nurtured and helped.
Absolutely. Tawana, thank you so much for being on the show. You're helping a lot of folks out there, including me. And thank you again so much for being on the show with us. And thank you guys so much for watching. I know you're enjoying the segments we have with Tawana. So we're going to, as a matter of fact, as soon as the show's over, we're going to plan another one for next month. So again, thank you to all of our sponsors and all of you who watch. You actually make my day. Again, thank you. Bye-bye.